I had a chance to watch your interview on Shaman Oaks. Is that what it is?
Yes.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, I can't believe we get to have her on our show so we can
Very
hear
grateful
you
to be here.
speak. And oh, it's wonderful.
I
So
can't
great.
wait too. But by the way,
I
guys,
know.
we this is supposed to be the hour of enlightenment, Eric's fucking hour of enlightenment, and it did not work because Blog Talk Radio fails again. Technical
Yeah.
difficulties. Oh my God, why did I turn black? Oh, now it's
That was Rain. That was Eric.
Eric.
That's a new Zoom feature. Very cool.
Uh-huh. Interesting. Okay, so but it's okay because we have a wonderful guest we are still going to interview, and I'm going to ask a couple of questions for people who are, on the other side of the pond after this interview. And it's just going to be a very short thing, but you guys will be able to contact Betty and or whoever you want and Michelle in the links in the description box below. So without further ado, Betty Guadagno. How do you say it?
Guadagno.
Oh, is
Oh
it
wow.
Arne
Okay.
or Daniel? Okay,
It
sorry.
says yeah.
All right, good. We're gonna listen to her apparently awesome story. Take it away. You got the mic.
All right, good stuff. Well, I'm really grateful for this conscious space. So thank you for allowing me on. And I had a near-death-like experience in March of 2019, and my whole life transformed 180 degrees. I went from a drug addict, a prostitute. I was on the verge of homelessness. I was a militant atheist to none of those things. My experience definitely transformed me 180 degrees in another direction.
Wow.
So, yeah, in order for me to kind of share about the transformation, I got to paint a little bit of a backstory.
Yeah.
So I grew up in a very chaotic, dysfunctional home. I come from a family of addicts. My whole family is very impoverished. So everything that goes along with that.
Okay.
And my whole family is also a perpetual cycle of not only addiction and poverty, but molestation, incest, rape. And so you're taught at a very young age to start using any kind of thing that can numb you so that you can deal with what your experience is. So that's what I did. From a really young age, I started using so that I could cope with my uncomfortable life experience. I watched my parents use, and I watched their dis-ease of addiction just completely take over their lives. But for some reason, I thought that I could do it smarter. I could do it better. I wasn't going to end up like them. And in 2007, my parents had hit a new bottom in their addiction. They were about to face another eviction. The lights were turned off. The gas was turned off. The phone was turned off. And they knew that they had to stop using drugs and end their suffering. And the only way that they knew how to do that was to do what they had seen other people in our family do to get off of drugs. And that was to die. And so in October of 2007, my parents intentionally overdosed. They completed suicide with one another. And I was 23 when that happened. My sister was 18. We found them. They left these really short, brief notes. They didn't really explain much, but they didn't have to, because in some way I knew exactly what was going on, because I was dealing with my own addiction and I understood what that felt like. And I really couldn't understand it from their point of view then. But, in the moment of my parents' death, I came to this crossroads, and it was like me and my addiction were head on with each other. And one road said, okay, you should stop using drugs. They just killed your parents. It's time to let go. And then the other road said, well, you can't let go of drugs because that's all that you have left of your parents. And what kind of daughter would you be if you let go of the legacy of your family? You have to keep using. And so that voice made more sense. And so I followed that voice. And so drugs became my parents. My addiction became my parent. It said, I'll never leave you. I'll never abandon you. It's me and you together forever. And that's what happened. And my addiction came before everything. I abandoned my sister. I moved across the country. My addiction came before every marriage, every partnership, every friendship, every job, every pet, every apartment. Nothing was more important than my relationship with my addiction. It became my guiding star. I'm even covered in tattoos of liquor bottles and packs of cigarettes. Like, this was my whole identity.
Yeah.
I had really shaped my whole life around being this quote unquote party girl. And then I ended up overdosing in March of 2019. That's when I had this really profound spiritual experience. And the first part of my experience, I have some language for it today, but what I had experienced was a spontaneous Kundalini awakening. And if you've never heard of Kundalini energy before, that's okay, neither did I. So, Kundalini roughly translates into life force. So I had this life force energy activation awakening. All of my chakra systems became online and awoken all at the exact same moment. And I had no idea what a chakra was at the time. But I had this rush of energy going up and down my body. And as my third eye, oh yeah, go ahead.
After you overdosed?
This is after I overdosed, yeah.
Okay, got it. Wow.
So I was conscious. I don't know if I actually physically died because I didn't have a doctor that said she died, but it definitely felt like a death and rebirth situation. But I believe that I was conscious for most of it. So as this rush of energy was going up and down my body, when my third eye and my crown chakra opened, it felt like my spirit shot out of my body and started to travel into the space of eternity. But before I went into the light, I started to experience what I perceive is a life review. So I started to experience all of the events in my life, not only from my point of view, but from the other person's point of view as well. And I told you about some of the trauma that I endured in my life, but I'm not just a traumatized person. I'm a traumatized person who traumatized other people. And I caused mass amounts of abuse and harm to others. And so in my life review, I was experiencing mainly that. I was feeling what I had done to other people, and it was brutal.
Well, did you feel judged during that life review, or did you feel like you weren't being judged?
The only judgment was the judgment that I was giving myself. It wasn't that anything else was even present in that life review moment. It was really just that I was feeling pain because that's what I had done to other people. I had caused pain. So another really profound part of that life review experience was that I experienced my parents' suicide, not only from the perspective of a grieving daughter all over again, but also from their perspective. And so I actually felt deep, dark ocean of anguish and despair. And it felt like every cell in my body was covered in concrete and static and spikes. And it felt like what I imagine people describe hell to feel like. And it was brutal. And I thought, okay, I died and now I'm in hell and this is my experience now. And then I started to hear these masculine voices. And they were telling me, you are worthy of all the love in the universe. You are worthy of all the love in the universe. And I started to listen to those voices, and I came out of that feeling of despair and anguish, and I started to travel towards the voices. Now, they were masculine voices. It was my divine masculine energy presenting himself to me. And then it morphed into every divine masculine that I've ever encountered in my life. So my father was there. I had a boyfriend who had recently passed away. He was there as well. And that voice just kind of morphed into every familiar man in my life to guide me into this space. And so the beginning of my experience in eternity, it looked a lot like a spaceship. And I landed on the deck of this spaceship, and I was surrounded by thousands of other souls. And in the center was a commander. And you can call the commander Christ or Krishna, Buddha, some sort of higher entity, whatever language resonates for you. It's all the same thing. So in the center of this ship with these thousands of souls, the commander is gearing us up for our trip to Earth. And so I'm downloaded with the information that I'm a divine spiritual warrior sent to Earth on a mission for the Great Awakening to uplift the consciousness of the planet from a level of third dimensional thinking to fifth dimensional thinking. And I was there with my whole jump squad. And these are all words that I had never heard before. So, this is all coming into my awareness. And I'm just thinking that I'm tripping super hard. I'm like, whoa, I am so high. This is so crazy. What is going on? So everything is happening simultaneously, all at the exact same moment. And my perception moves to another scene. And I find myself in front of a table of beings. And they didn't tell me who they were, but they didn't have to, because it was very clear to me right away that they were people in charge. And I didn't even need to question them or find out who they were. And they had this big, large book in front of them. And they were thumbing through the book. And they said, okay, it's good to see you. You're not meant to stay. You're only here for some information. And then you'll be going back. And I'm like looking around me over my shoulders. I'm like, you guys, you're not talking to me, are you? Because
Oh
I don't
my
know where
God.
I am, but I'm definitely not going back to where I just was, because this place feels a whole lot better. And they kept thumbing
Yes.
through the book, and they were very dismissive. And they said, no, 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 you're only here for information. You're not meant to stay. And then I found myself transforming into a small child, and I started banging my
Mm.
figurative hands and feet on the ground. There's no body there. But I was like, I will not go back. You cannot make me go back. Now it's starting to come into my awareness where I am. I'm home. I know that I'm
Yeah.
home, and I'm whole, and I feel like everything. I feel all the love. And I said, you guys don't actually tell us what Earth is like, and you have not prepared me for any part of this mission, and I absolutely will not return. And they said, okay, you're here to learn about your pre-birth plan because it's going to help you get through the rest of your mission.
Mm.
So let's take you through that. So then my awareness goes into another scene, and I find myself, it looked a lot like a grocery store. I mean, everything looked a lot like a video game to me. And that could be because of the
Wow.
generation that I'm born in, or it could be
True.
because we're living in a simulation. I don't know. You could take your pick. So inside this grocery store, I have this big, huge, empty grocery cart, and there's a man, and he's guiding me through. And he says, okay, let's pick your life. And so I start going through the aisles of this grocery store, and there's these big cereal boxes lining the walls of the aisles. And every cereal box has a life experience on it. And so I knew that I was coming to Earth on this divine mission, and that I was going to have to transmute a lot of negative energy. And also because of the family line that I was being born into, there was already some predestined events that were going to take place no matter what. So I start grabbing all these cereal boxes, and I'm grabbing things like addiction, prostitution, poverty, picking the family line that I would be born into,
What were you
sexual
thinking
trauma.
of?
I know, I know. I think it's like, it might be a misinformed decision when we actually
Yeah.
decide to sign up for this stuff. But so I'm grabbing all this stuff, and then I'm also grabbing things and I'm throwing them in the cart that have not happened in my life yet, like spiritual
Mm.
awakening, recovery, overcoming, triumph, being a speaker, being an author. But none of those things had happened in my life yet, so they didn't make any sense to me. But the other things most certainly did. And so now I have the awareness that I'm actually not a victim of my circumstance. I am a divine co-creator of my experience. Things have no longer happened to me. They happened for me because I went through this grocery store and I did my supermarket sweep and I picked all of the experiences. And so I had this sovereignty and this autonomy of my spirit that had just taken over me. And it felt like 2 tons of bondage had been released from me.
Did
And
he
not
give
only was
did he
I,
give
go
any
ahead.
guidance as to what cereal box to pick?
So there
Weenie
wasn't
or
necessarily, there wasn't guidance. It was kind of like a free for all. Like, you know that you know that you're going to be born into a certain family line, so certain things are going to happen. There was also certain soul contracts that were already kind of established. For instance, one of the cereal boxes that I chose was the experience of childhood sexual trauma.
Yeah.
And so when I picked this cereal box, an orb of light came out with it. And that orb of light was the soul of the man who would molest me as a small child. We came orb to orb with each other, and we came into contract with one another. And I saw the reasons why. And one of the main reasons was that I had been his abuser in a previous life in the same capacity. And so in this lifetime, we were balancing the scales for each other. And also because I was taking on this experience so that I could transmute the energy for the collective itself. It's not just for me and my family line, it's for all of humanity. So that was like a really huge pivotal moment in this experience, because that was something that I had always felt very victimized by. And so now in this moment, I no longer needed to feel like a victim. And so, I come back, my awareness comes back to the table of beings, and I'm like so grateful and so thankful. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this is the information that I've needed my whole life. This is the puzzle piece. This is the key. This is it. I planned it. Now I know. I'm still not going back to Earth, but I thank you guys so much for the information. It is so great to know this, but I still definitely do not want to go back. I said, the show is going to be great. I know it. I'd love to watch from up here. I'm going to go grab my PJs and a bowl of popcorn. I'm geared up just to watch. And they were very dismissive again. And they said, you have to go back. And this is not a punishment. We're not sending you back as a punishment. We're just sending you back because you signed up for this. And this is something that you wanted to do. And so we're going to let you complete it. And I likened it to being on a roller coaster. Like, you cannot hop off the ride halfway through. You got to just complete the ride. And, you know, a roller coaster only lasts 40 seconds. I mean, it's nothing. It's like a little blip in the ocean of eternity. And so, you know, as I'm pleading with them to please don't make me go back, I said, well, listen, I definitely cannot go back into the life that I just came from. I can't go back into her body. Her body has been abused. It's been traumatized. It's completely out of control. There's no way. She's glitched. I can't go back into that body. And they said, okay, you don't have to go back into her, but you do have to go back. And so we'll show you the baby that you'll be born into. And so they showed me this little baby and everything about her, her gender, her ethnicity, where she would be born, who her parents were, her adversity, her opportunity to overcome. And she was going to have to complete my life cart. And then not only that, but because of the family line that she was being born into, she had some cereal boxes of her own that were thrown on top of mine. And so I thought, well, damn, if my only options are to start from zero or go back into the glitched body that I just came from, I guess I'll just go back into her. And they said, okay, you know, like, and so I found my awareness sifting back into my body. And they said to me, listen, the second part of your life is not going to be nearly as challenging as the first. The first part of your life was boot camp, and it's geared you up for the second part of your life, which will be carrying out your mission. And this part will be easier because now you'll be living in spiritual awareness. You're going to have mentors and teachers and soulmates and kindred spirits and community. And your life is going to be vastly different. Trust us. And I just remember looking back and saying, I do not trust you guys. And then I found myself back in my body. And that's the bulk of my spiritual experience. So, yeah.
Wow.
That is incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I was raised by very militant atheists. When I called them screaming that Erik was dead, my father said, well, sorry, he's going to turn to dust. That was his response. Terrible people. Anyway. But, and I remember, you know, Erik said, look, when he gets over here, I'm going to play a trick on him. He's going to be like on the other side. He's going to like, it's all black. And he's like, wait a minute, I'm thinking. So if I'm thinking, what's going on? And then he realizes that he's a literal being and, you know, calls for help and stuff. But then Erik says, hey, Poppy, by the way, this is only temporary. Pretty soon it's all going to go away and you're going to be gone forever. He didn't do that, though. It's like just a short little visit to heaven and then you're dust. Anyway.
So Betty, how did you, like, that is just so much, and to have no like language or description to what's happening. So what was it like after you had that experience integrating back into life? Like what did that look like for you?
Chaos, complete and utter chaos. So, you know, I wrote my whole experience off as drug-induced psychosis. All I knew was that I took a bunch of drugs and then I thought I was talking to God. So I was like, okay, you took too much, you broke your brain, no big deal. So I just kept trying to live my life the only way that I knew how, which was to use drugs, drink alcohol, sedate, medicate, lie, steal, manipulate, whatever my life looked like. And then the universe, my higher power, you know, source stepped in this really loud, tangible way and said, no way. Like, we told you that you're here on a mission and that it's time to get on to the mission. And so my world became super, super tiny. And through, I mean, just the most beautiful divine signs and synchronicities, I found myself in a long-term women's rehab in Brooklyn, New York, where I live. And that's where I spent my time integrating my spiritual experience. Now, again, I didn't know that I had a spiritual experience because I didn't know what those words were. But all I thought was that I died and that I went to heaven and they kicked me out of heaven and I want to get back to heaven.
I'm probably going to get kicked out. I'm surprised, Erik, that you weren't kicked out. Okay.
So
it feels like, looks like I'm not paying attention, but I'm listening, but I'm also telling people what's going on. So.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Because they're probably
So
trying.
yeah, I thought that I was just trying to get back to heaven, and I thought that I had to do recovery to do that. So like I stopped using drugs, I went into rehab, and I would like
Yeah.
talk out to God, and he'd be like, "Hey God, I haven't used drugs in 7 days. So are you coming to get me yet? Or how long
Oh
do I
my
have to wait?"
God. Oh my.
And then, I'd make it to another milestone. I'm like, okay, it's been a month and nobody has come to get me yet. I feel like an abandoned child at school. Who's
Oh,
coming to pick me up? So for a long time, I just thought that I died and I was just trying to get back to that spiritual space.
I
And then
bet.
as
Yeah.
time went on and I called in some of my spiritual gifts, like being able to find the books that were going to give me some solace in my life and give me some
Yes.
integration in my life, and find language and podcasts and YouTubes and, information on the internet. Now, I had very limited access to the internet because I was in a long-term rehab. So
Yeah.
once a week, they'd let us
Right.
go to the library, and I would go right onto the computer. I'd go right to the spirituality section, and I would just let spirit lead me to the information that I needed. So, at first, my life was really chaotic. In the integration process. And I wasn't surrounded by anybody who spoke my language or understood what I was saying.
Hard
I
to
just kept
find.
talking about the stars and the moon and the sky and source and energy. And, I was in like a rehab with 25 other women healing from their own addiction.
Yeah.
So they were like, listen, lady, we don't want to hear about the stars and the moon and the sky. Okay. Like we want to get our kids back. We want to go back to our life, like
Yeah.
whatever kind of, experience they were having. But so my experience was definitely chaotic, but through, more signs and synchronicities, I found my way into my spiritual communities. I found the spiritual texts that really helped me get through each day of my life and the reprogramming process. And I slowly but surely realized that it wasn't about going back to heaven. It was about bringing heaven here. And so I do that on a daily basis, just through
Well,
connection to other people.
so yeah, tell us about your life now. Are
Yeah.
you married? Do you have kids? What are you doing? I know you're an author, etc. But give us the whole spiel.
Yeah, well, I'm an aspiring author. I'm not an author quite yet, but I work in the recovery field. I work as a peer advocate, which means that my whole job is just self-disclosure. So I say, hey, I'm in recovery. If I can do it, you can do it. And
Yeah.
they pay me a salary for that. It's bizarre. I also have a private coaching business where I assist people, whether they're dealing with their own addictions or spiritual
Yes.
integration or spiritual awakening,
That's
and they're
awesome.
looking for some sort of personal mentorship. I do that as well. And I also work part-time for the International Association for Near-Death Studies. The acronym is IANS.
Oh yeah.
And I host a podcast for them, and I coordinate their
Yeah.
webinars for their online platform. And it's been totally amazing to have this transformation happen in my life. Before I was a prostitute, I was a drug addict, I was totally impoverished. Today, I have a wonderfully abundant life, and I'm surrounded by
Yes.
spiritual community, and I really do things that I care about, and I'm constantly in service to others, which feels very aligned with my spiritual
Yeah.
purpose.
So, do you have any family gotten back together with you? Have you gotten married? Do you have children? Anything like that?
No children, not married. I've been married 3 times. It's not really my thing. Doesn't quite work
Ah,
for me. I do have a wonderful partner. I have a wonderful, healthy, conscious, interdependent relationship.
good.
It's my first time in my life being like an independent person, being
Yeah.
completely self-sufficient. So I'm very proud of that aspect of myself. My partner also is a very independent individual, and we're both in recovery, and we found each other through that outlet of our spiritual
Awesome.
community. And yeah, the doors have slowly opened into the relationships with my family members that, my active addiction absolutely destroyed those relationships. And the door has opened. It's not completely flung open or anything, like just a little peek, a little crevice. So I just take what I can get. I make my universal amends for all the harm that I caused by being a better person moving forward. But that
There we
doesn't
go.
necessarily mean that everybody forgets all of the harm that I caused before. Just because I had some profound spiritual awakening doesn't mean that they can
Yeah.
be accepting of that. So I just trust and accept, and I live my life in a state of surrender around those relationships.
Have you ever read
Yeah.
The Little Soul of the Sun by Neil Donald Walsh, the guy who wrote Conversations with God?
I have not read that.
Well, you can actually just like type it in YouTube and get the narrated Little Soul of the Sun narration or narrated. I can't remember what it is. It's a children's book, but it is freaking amazing. Everybody in your family should be sent that book because basically it's about this little soul who wants to learn about forgiveness, but he has to get another soul to betray him. And that little soul says, well, you promise not to forget me because I have to lower my vibration to such a low, dark level that I will forget myself. It's really beautiful. And it explains so many of the lessons. I mean, we are here to learn how to love, as Erik says, but also he says we are here to learn about love and all its many facets. And through contrast, you know, we have to learn about the love facet of forgiveness by being betrayed and all that kind of stuff. So it's really a beautiful story. It's a little sad because it's a kid's book, but you know, it's in a nutshell, it explains the human experience and why we have the toxic relationships we have to go through, etc. And so if your family members and friends could see from that perspective, then it may help them. But you know, you can't just force things on people, obviously.
Yeah,
So,
everybody has that beautiful that spiritual autonomy. Whatever's meant for them will find its way to them.
Exactly.
What really intrigues me as well, because I pick up on this with you, is your connection as a starseed, the
Oh, yeah, you have
universal
starseed
connection.
eyes for
So I
sure.
feel like, oh yes, and I
God.
feel like you've got so many deep layers. Like we're really only scratching a surface of the totality of you and what
Yeah.
you have not only to offer but to share. And so, have you experienced, which I'm sure you have, any experiences with your starseed family? Do you
Ooh,
communicate, you know, your abilities? Can you share any of that with us?
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, that's so great. I don't know if I've ever shared about this part of my journey on
We
before.
have an exclusive. Yay.
Yes, this is so exciting. So, you know, I felt very called to the information about light workers and star seeds as the awakening was starting to take place in my life. And it was again like information was just finding its way to me without
Yeah.
my permission. I promise you, like this is a true story. My laptop was open, but it was turned off completely, black screen, and then all of a sudden a Dolores Cannon video just started playing out of nowhere. The computer was not
Wow.
on. And
Yeah.
this video came on and I started like asking questions inside my head. And then every question that I asked, she answered in real time. It
Yeah.
was crazy. My brain was like melting out of my skull, you know? So I always really resonated with information about Orion star seeds. And so I started to
Yes.
kind of like adopt that as this is my new reality. This is my new belief system. This is who I am. And recently I did a starseed soul regression with Rob
Mhm.
Schwartz and his wife, Liesel Frick. And I found that I have some Lyran roots as well.
I can see
And
that.
yeah, and
Yes.
you know that really resonates for me because I've had a lot of spiritual downloads about Atlantis and you know kind of being here for the whole of humanity. And I recognize that as a truth, as a spiritual truth, just because of all of the dense experiences that I took on in this lifetime. I know that I'm not some new soul who was like, sign me up for like the advanced, extra advanced expert level of the game. I know that I've been here before. That's why I took on all of this stuff
Yes.
this time around.
Can
So
I
yeah,
ask,
you
You're a
know, I
volunteer.
yeah.
You're a
definitely,
volunteer.
definitely.
Definitely.
Can I ask
Yes.
Erik a few questions about her?
Yes. He's
So
already telling me some stuff. So yes, go
okay,
ahead.
Erik, she was from you know, had lives in Atlantis just like you and I did. Did we have have you had lives with her, or is there any kind of connection? Number one.
Yes. Erik says there's several lifetimes where we have interacted. Now he's not showing me a lot of close interpersonal. So he's saying more of an acquaintance, but he is showing me a lifetime, which is very interesting, where Erik is showing me that he was a bird and
Mm.
he's got this great big wing that's stretched out and his wing is broken. And you are male in this lifetime and you're approaching him to
Oh,
help him. And
Betty, right?
yes,
Not me. Okay, Betty. Right.
No, Betty was the male,
Right.
approaching Erik as a bird to assist him. And there was some Eric's showing me fear in both, because he says it was an exchange of trust between the two of you. And he says it is that vibration that has drawn this experience together, because he says that, yeah, there is a deepening of trust that's taking place in your life right now, and like a new level of trust.
All right,
That definitely resonates for sure. Yeah.
Would like
Beautiful.
to ask is she an earth angel? You know, earth angels are people or humans that decide to incarnate and have a lot of crap on their plate. So they have to come in with a much higher vibration to be able to survive it, right? And usually they end up being light workers. Is she one of the very rare earth angels or not?
Erik said that Betty is very much Starseed.
Starseed. They're very similar
much,
energy.
very cosmic. Yes, and he said that is exactly right, because she does have many characteristics. He says that Earth angels have as well, but he says that she's extremely expansive in her cosmic, like her cosmic energy is quite big. He says there's just a fraction of her that is projected in this life.
Oh,
just
wow.
a teeny bit. And look what
Dipping
we got.
your toe in.
Right. What a beautiful gift you have, Michelle. Thank you so much for sharing it. So wonderful. Yeah, beautiful.
I also want to ask, why is the males to the very beginning of her story? Why all male?
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I know your male self, but you had surrounded by males in that whole situation. So what's going on there?
Erik says that it has to do with the interaction, because the male energy in many lifetimes had played a very significant part of the evolution of her soul, but not always in the best situations. So he says it's trust. It's trust with that male energy and a deeper connection. It's releasing a lot of the he's calling it dysfunctional male energy, and it balancing out in your life. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, that really resonates. You know, I know that in many of my past lifetimes I have been a man. This is like one of my only times being a woman. Like,
yes.
What a burden. And and you know, I've thought about that too, because it was never like a feminine voice came to me, but at that point in the journey, my whole awakening had been catalyzed by a masculine energy. And so it was like, that was what I clung to, was that masculine voice. And I was like, okay, well, I trust that voice. So that's the voice that I'm going to go toward. I want to see more about that. So yeah.
That makes sense. Anything else Erik was sharing about her? I know he thinks she's cute and probably wants to flirt with her. He's a big flirt.
Okay. I'll share it. He has shown me so many visuals of you as, and you've maybe already had glimpses of this, but like he's showing you as a pinup girl, as a, like all of these different, like beautiful, like just, you look like you're in the 50s, like on a poster is what he's showing me. And yes, he says you're very beautiful. He's got a little bit of a crush on you, because whenever he nudges his arm like this and does a little wink, he's got a little crush.
I knew it.
A good human avatar this time around. Superior genes.
Yeah.
Crazy family dysfunction, but they have good genes. I'll give them that.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anything else Erik wants to share? Or Betty, if you want to ask Erik anything too.
Yeah, Betty, just to tell you too, Erik says that you've got so there's so much expansion, because he says like this is really just the beginning, and look where you are. Because he says there's so much opportunity available to you. And did you know Erik before at all? Because he's showing being with you prior to our arrangement. So have you felt any connection with him previously?
No, I haven't.
I
did get to hear this. I did get to hear this story, and I really resonated with this story, obviously, and just like the intense compassion that goes out to any parent who loses a child.
Because I'll tell you, he's got okay, he's saying listen. He's got it's like he's presenting an opportunity to you, because he's like, shall we work together? Can I work with you? Because that's what he'd like to do. He says that you have a lot to share. You are a leader, and your quality of a leader
Wow.
comes right down to your honesty, your vulnerability, your ability to be able to share from the depths of your heart with absolutely no bounds.
That's you so
Erik says that's
your
a deep
authentic
quality.
self, man. Such
It
courage.
really,
Most people
really,
don't have the courage to be their authentic self.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
I
that's what gives us happiness, you know?
I think so too. I think a big part of my spiritual experience, well, there was a couple of really big takeaways. Number one, I know that there's no such thing as condemnation. So, I mean, like I was the worst kind of human being. I mean, like
No.
you wouldn't know it from looking at me now, but like if you could see the before and after pictures, which exist online, and please feel free to look them up in the links below. I was
We've
an
got some that we'll
actual,
post too. It's
I was an
amazing.
animal. I really was. I was actually an animal. I was living like in the most base survival, like suffering state that a human could
Yeah.
be.
Oh, I
And
wish
so
I had been your mama then. Oh,
I recognize though that there's no condemnation. So that's been a really huge part of the
Yeah.
journey. And I could have continued to live
Yeah.
my life causing harm to other people, but this feels better. Like the way that I live my life now, being of
Yes.
service to other people, it feels more aligned.
Yeah.
And another big part of it was that I found out in my spiritual experience that Earth is not real, that this is an illusion. We live
it's
inside of it.
a Shakespearean play we're all actors in. In fact, it's a Shakespearean
Exactly. So
tragedy.
why would I not be the most honest version of myself? It's
Yeah.
not real. Like it doesn't
Yes.
really matter.
Yes.
So the way that I feel
That's
about
right.
it today is like, I'm going to put it all out there because number one, it's inspiring. It's inspiring that somebody can turn their life
Yes.
and
Oh,
that, if I
absolutely.
can do it, literally anybody can.
It
And
gives
I
people
hold that
hope.
vision.
Your story gives people
That's
hope.
my vision for the future is that like anybody who desires transformation can have access to it. If I can, I know.
Yes. That is mine too. That is mine as
Yes.
well.
I
If
hold
I
that.
can
I
do
hold
it,
that
anybody
firm.
can.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah,
Yes.
like I
Wonderful.
think that those things have
Wonderful.
really helped me in becoming this most authentic version of myself. And she reveals
Yes.
more and more of herself on a daily basis.
Yes.
The version
Yes.
that I was 2 years ago in this journey is not nearly as authentic as this version of myself. And
Right.
I thought then like, wow, I'm really doing this whole authenticity thing. But
Yeah.
now it's reached a whole nother layer of it,
Yes.
and I look forward to continuing to peel that
Yes.
onion back.
And Erik says it will continue to. And as you continue to grow, um, so will all of the opportunities and the abilities to share. And you are a speaker. You are a speaker, and to be out in front of others to really share all of the things that have happened to you are to show other people what is possible,
Yeah.
what you can do. There is hope, and we can transform. And you
Mm.
are a shining example of it.
Wow.
Amazing.
So tell us
Amazing.
how you can help people. You can share your links, but they will also be
Yes.
down below. But do you have like a life coach thing going on?
Do yeah. So I'm on all social media. My handle on everything is Buddha Betty. It's a play on words.
I love it.
And I'm definitely open to communicating. One of the things that I really love to do is I love shepherding people to spiritual communities. So if you're somebody who's
Mhm.
dealing with addiction or you're the family member of somebody dealing with addiction, I'd love to introduce you to some 12-step communities. 12-step has been such a huge part of my own process, like the undoing and the relearning of practicing the 12 steps, which is a highly spiritual process, has been
Yes.
completely
Yes.
transformative for me. And so I love introducing people to those communities. And then also I found a bunch of really cool spiritual communities of people talking about higher consciousness, star seeds, light workers, getting together in communion and really like fleshing out the realms of consciousness. It's awesome. So that's one of my favorite things to do is to be able to connect people with their tribe,
Yeah.
help them find
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
Connect
Erik
with
says
their
a
tribe.
networker.
Love it.
Yeah. A networker. Yeah.
Awesome.
So good. So good.
Anything else you want to share, or Erik, is there anything else you want to say, or ask, or tell, or whatever, or you too? Yeah.
Erik is very, very excited because he says there's a lot of people that will watch this and he says it's so important to have your face out there because there's a lot of people that will watch this that will reach out to you that you can help. Um, oh, Erik. And he goes, and tell her she's so cute. She's
Oh,
so cute.
oh, I think he probably knows that. We all know
Yeah.
it. All right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
how did you connect, you guys, to become a guest on the show? What happened?
I think that we have a mutual friend, Pooja, and she connected all of us.
Oh, good.
Mhm.
Yes.
Mhm.
If I'm not mistaken, I think that's what it is.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Oh,
All
it's so great. It's so good.
part of the
I
same
keep
soul
repeating it over and
community.
over. Yes. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else have anything to say before I ask two questions for people from Erik?
No, we're good. I'm just all smiles ear to ear because I just
I
love
know.
this
Oh,
every
I know
moment
what I
of it.
want. Erik, you said you want to work with her. How do you want to do that?
Oh, yes. How do you want to do that, Erik? He's just saying he wanted you to have this awareness to invite him in your consciousness and to communicate with him. Erik is very good at leaving a signature to let you know it's him that's around. He's quite funny.
Smells.
And he loves to play with, as you saw in the beginning, with the rain
Yeah.
coming down. He loves to play with electronics and with it, your cell phone, your computer. So you will know when he's there. But he just is like dropping that awareness, like, let me know if you want to work together, because he says that big things, big things are available to you. And you've got so
Wow.
many in spirit, so many teams in spirit to continue to uplift you so that you can help uplift so many others.
Oh,
So,
what a
yeah. And
beautiful
Erik is a
story.
great partner to have too.
He's fun. I mean, I
Yeah.
remember not too long after he died, he would make the Viking downdraft vent on the stove go up and down every time Papa came in from the garage to the kitchen, days in a row. But we were remodeling. There was no electricity to the kitchen. Okay. He'd turn on faucets all the way. Or
Wow.
he one time locked a radio producer who was in the middle of an interview. They went on break and he locked them out. And just turning on blenders that are unplugged and stuff. It's crazy. So he's pretty
Yeah.
powerful in his pranks. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
He is.
All
He
right. Well,
is.
that sounds fun. That all sounds like a fun journey. All right.
Yeah. You'll have to join us again, Betty, and
Oh
keep
my
us
Thank you
gosh.
so
keep us
much for the
updated on
space.
your on your journey and on everything that's happening. We just have
Absolutely.
absolutely loved this.
Yeah, maybe you could
Yeah.
be a regular. We could do mutual Zooms, and you can teach
Yeah.
everybody different things to get you out there
That
more
would be
and more.
great. That would be
Very
great.
cool. Very
Yeah.
cool. Looking forward to collaborating in the future.
All right. Well,
Yes,
you reach
absolutely.
out to me whenever.
Okay,
Yes.
good stuff. Thank you guys so much.
But don't leave.
Thank you,
Oh,
Betty.
you can leave if you want, but whatever. I'm not gonna force you here. You're not my slave. But I just Nancy Antia from Argentina needs to know if Santi, her son, planned or arranged to be murdered before incarnating. If so, why? This is kind of like the little soul in the sun thing, Betty.
Yes, he did. He did. Erik says it was to create a profound awakening in those around him.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
for him, it was the experience. And actually, much like Betty was talking about with the exchanging roles with the abuser and the
Yeah.
abused,
Hmm.
that's exactly what is happening with him as well.
It
It's
was a
changing roles.
rebalancing of karma.
Yes, yes.
Interesting. All right. Well, I mean, it has brought her to channeling Erik and awakened her, so it's kind of cool. All right. Last question. Is that the last question? Oh yeah. Dawn Bouchard has a pig named Wilbur. Love that name. Who, for some reason, can't get up without help. And they don't know, there's no large animal vet that they could take him to. But she adores this pig. And, Erik, she thinks, well, maybe there's something wrong with the spine. She's constipated, but of course he can't walk. So, I mean, that's part of it. And he doesn't want to be helped. He gets upset and, sort of slides into the wall to escape, but what is going on with his physical body? And what can we do about it?
So Wilbur has a little bit of discomfort in his joints, Erik says. But he says that Wilbur's quite a heavy guy. But he's actually saying this has more to do with the personality than it is the body.
Really?
Because he says that Wilbur is stubborn. Wilbur likes comfort. He also says that Wilbur does not see himself as a pig at all. Wilbur sees himself as a child in the family who wants to stay in bed, tucked in, and wants to just be taken care of. And Erik says, like, if you could do everything and let him just lay there, he'd happily accept it.
That's like Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, all those grandparents in the bed that never get out. He's like that.
Yes, he is showing me that there's some inflammation in the joints, and he's talking about like joint medicine.
Oh yeah, like glucosamine,
like liquid. Yes,
glucosamine and
yes,
chondroitin. Yeah,
yes,
you can take something like that, or
massage as well. Massage, Erik says.
Talking about that.
Yeah,
massage.
Some massage. He actually shows like upper like shoulder, hip, and a little bit in the leg area on the right hand side.
Are there any mediums in our group or healers in our group that could help?
Yes, actually, Erik's pointing to Denise as being the best match.
Denise Ramon at deniseramon.com. Go and check that out. All right. So any final words? Oh my God, you're so beautiful in every way, Betty. Really.
Oh, you glow, Betty. You do.
I just have been so inspired. I can go to bed tonight.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. It's a Zoom filter and a ring light, but I appreciate you.
What?
I said it's a Zoom filter and a ring light. that
Oh no, it's not just
no, but
that.
there is a real glow. You can see it in your eyes. You can see it in your eyes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy that, I mean, as a mama, to see a young lady who was suffering and struggling to come up on top. I mean, that's a mama's dream, man. Anyway, send over your adoption papers.
Yeah, thank you so much, Betty.
Thank you guys so much. Beautiful space. So cool to connect with you. Thank you for sharing your gift, Michelle. So
if you want to do anything else, Betty.
Definitely. I look forward to collaborating for sure.
Yes, we'll do this again. Perfect. All right.
Also, guys, I wanted to let you know we're going to skip the next 2 radio shows. Not that it works, but anyway, shit. But anyway, because I'm, going to take off a little bit for, a little bit for
little vacation.
Holidays.
Yes.
Lost my train of thought. All right. Bye, everyone. Check the links.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.